welcome once again. Today's roundtable, as you know, is on why you must reimagine your cloud strategy now. This is being organized in partnership with VMware and Sify. My sincerest thanks for taking time off to join this discussion. I am Shamanu Chetas, Editorial Director of B2B Publications at 9.9 Group, and your moderator for this session. One housekeeping announcement. I'll request you to keep your video switched on if possible, and probably mute yourself if you're not speaking, especially if you're in a noisy environment. Otherwise, it is okay. The topic is something that I think you all can very well identify with, but we'll get into discussion whether how much reimagining is it, how much readjusting, or even more than that. The pandemic has certainly changed our lives and business forever. It made many organizations realize the value that IT and digitization, and in particular cloud, can bring in. But it also created huge expectations from technology. We cannot go back to the pre-pandemic period. The things have changed a lot in these 2 years. 2020, 2029 looks like a very, very distant past. At the same time, we cannot continue to have the knee-jerk tactical reactions that we were forced to have in the beginning of the pandemic. So we need a fresh strategic approach probably for the long term, and that is what we'll all discuss today. To discuss, we have amongst us a distinguished panel. Let me read out the names before we get into the discussion. They are alphabetically. I'm reading out the names, and those who have joined. Mr. Abhishek Gupta, CIO and CDO, DSTV, was supposed to join. I don't know whether he has joined. Mr. Abhishek Prasoon, Digital Transformation Leader, Coforge, he has joined. Welcome. Mr. Ashish Pandey, Digital and Tech Head, India Subcontinent, GSK Consumer Healthcare India. So Ashish has also joined. Welcome. Mr. Basant Chaturvedi, CIO, Property India. I don't know if he has joined yet. Mr. Chandar Khanduja, CIO, Luminous Power Technologies. Chandar has joined. Welcome, Chandar. Mr. Ipninder Singh is a digital leader at a leading cement company. Ipninder, welcome. Mr. Maitre Moda, APAC Technology and Quality Leader, CNH Industrial. Maitre has joined. Welcome, Maitre. Mr. Naveen Gulati, CIO, Ginnar Soft. That is Carveco. I don't know if Naveen has joined yet. Mr. Vinod Sivaramakrishnan, CIO, Indus Towers. I have also not seen him when I started. And Mr. Bipin Jamwal, Senior Director, IS Birlasoft India. Bipin has joined. Welcome, Bipin.
Shamanu, I'm here.
That is Vinod?
Yes.
Oh, Vinod, yeah. Sorry. Great. So we have a good forum. From our partners, VMware and Sify, we have with us Ms. Sonia Aluwalia, Director, Cloud Sales, VMware India. Mr. Anitosh Haldar, Business and GTM Head, Cloud, DC and Managed Services, Sify Technology.
Hi, everyone.
Jotinder Taneja, Head, Business Development, Cloud Offering, Sify Technology. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, hi, everyone.
So I'll take no more time. I think we are ready for the discussion. Since we have limited time, I'll request each panelist to keep your initial remark to 2 to 2.5 minutes, so that we can have some open discussion after that, based on what most people are interested in. So let me start with Vinod. Is it okay, Vinod, if I start with you?
Always, Shamanu.
Yeah, thanks. So we'll start, from broad and then go to specific. So as we settle down for the post-pandemic new normal, in your business and related business that you deal every day with, what are the new business challenges and opportunities, and how do they translate to technology plans, technology strategy in general, and maybe cloud plans in particular?
Thanks, Shamanu. Let me start with a little, you know me very well to know that I will be provocative in some way or the other.
Yeah.
So I think let me start by saying, the word pandemic should probably be officially banned from CIO discussions going forward. I think at least as far as CEOs are concerned, the pandemic is very, very much rear view mirror. The number of pandemic heroes that we've had, it's over now.
Okay.
There is a clear understanding that tha ho gaya, you guys have done what you had to do. Now, what have you done for me lately? To quote my G bosses, the American way of management, the question is shifted to what have you done or what are you doing for me lately? And I think that question comes down to, look, what did the efforts of the last 2 years do? Apart from creating an impetus for digitization on some fairly tricky questions where business teams had been hedging all along, saying that ye hoga nahi, ye agar hua to log kaise kaam nahi karenge, we have accelerated all of that. So there is a new equilibrium point. There is a new balance of relationship as far as a CFO is concerned, or as far as a head of operations or manufacturing is concerned. And I think it is just the responsibility of every CIO who has not already done it to restore that equilibrium and keep it at that point. That is, don't allow it to slip back into a complete negation of the fact that pandemic existed and all these things were done. And I think the trick to that is really that, look, there has been some level of assertiveness that many of us have cultivated in this time. And the challenge for us is, how do you take that forward? My view, two asks that if I could translate the broad ask of CEOs, one of the things I think that's happened is there's a very significant awareness of what is flexibility. And one of the things I'm engaged with now since 1.5 years is to convince my business that flexibility does not come free. Somewhere there's an implicit assumption in the minds of people, flexibility bhi aa jayega, and in line with all the other things. And I keep trying to persuade my business stakeholders that flexibility comes at a cost. If you want to do A or B, that means you have to prepare to a great extent both A and B. From a cost point of view, you have to have both options open. You have to actually structure yourself differently for that flexibility. And my challenge, and I think where CIO priorities should be for this year, is to build that flexibility. We were forgiven a lot of seat of the pants stuff because of these circumstances around us. But the question is really, if you look at where the next disruption will come from, and I strongly maintain it is not going to come from pandemic type events, but if you look at what is happening, for instance, in the Great Resignation on the people front, if you look at the loss of key resources to startups, you look at the number of people dropping out of the workforce that are close to retirement anyway, these are scary. If I were to counsel, it would be to build skill, to build bench strength. We are talking about hiring a broader net at a lower level, grooming talent internally, skilling people up internally. We are talking some of these things, and into my mind, that comes under the same umbrella of flexibility that I spoke about, Shamanaj. And I think if there's a theme in what I'm saying, it is how can you structurally alter your IT while you still have some goodwill, residual goodwill left from what we've done over the last couple of years, before door starts closing and people start going back to that mode. So that is my humble submission to the group, is that flexibility, particularly in the view of talent, in the view of your systems, I think is the order of the day.
Great point, and you're so much emphasis on flexibility. I'm kind of tempted to go to Anita's, but I'll wait. I'll wait for some time, because that is and cloud and flexibility. Of course, you are talking about in a very, very broader sense, and a very nice point you made about keeping this using this opportunity as this your heroic image hangover is there, so get things done so that then great point. Okay. Let me turn to two of them. By the way, since I started, Abhishek Gupta, you from DisTV, and Naveen Gulati from Cardeco, Girnar sir have joined. Mr. Basant Chaturvedi also has joined, but he is probably, I'll talk to him a little later. So I have the same question. Of course, your business is slightly different, so you will answer from a different your business perspective. Let me start with Abhishek. See, in both our discussions, we did, this is the third one, we did it with South, we did it West. One of the things, well, flexibility came again and again in a broad sense, in a very specific cloud sense. One of the things that I thought I would ask, and I probed in one or two cases, but I didn't find, maybe it is not relevant, but in your kind of business, probably it is customer experience. Your when your business becomes more digital and people become more digital, when we talk this discussion, cloud had done this, that it is like resilience, it is like your process is efficient. But what about customer experience? So where how does cloud enhance and or help you keep it consistent, keep it good? So maybe Abhishek, you can take first, and then Naveen.
Yeah, sure. So we are in a consultancy business, IT consultancy business. So for us,
Abhishek, sorry, so I was asking the other Abhishek. I have something else in mind for you. My mistake. I didn't. Abhishek Gupta.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, thanks, Shamunuj. I was wondering how my voice has changed. Abhishek person. So yeah, I think it happens at times.
No, my apologies. I should have spelled out completely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little late. I was struggling to get the link. And
no, fine. It's just that.
Lost the call. I think so. The question is, how is cloud
customer experience? Okay. So cloud, IT, your entire thing on process efficiency, scalability, resilience, all those are fine. But in terms of meeting because number of people who do engage with you on digitally has increased. Their depth and time of digital engagement has also increased. Okay, so but the experience, the expectation is the same or even better. Okay, so how do you cope with that, and how does cloud help in that?
Okay, so honestly, it's a nightmare. And the nightmare is because we are responsible for that. And we are responsible because we are making so many changes every day that while making those changes, I break one thing or the other. Just before this call, to be very candid, I keep trying to make my left hand speak to right hand. My left hand is my application team. My right hand is my infra team. And for no good reason, you can say what is left, what is right. So just happen to say one is left, one is right. The infra team does not understand my application, and they don't want to understand, because in their head, they are specialists in infra and they are like cut above the rest. And my application team thinks exactly the same. They don't want to understand infra because they are cut above the rest. Now, how do I make them talk to each other? They will not talk. So I become that broker. So I gave the task to my infra team that, guys, this is the infra you manage. You please first tell me that what this infra runs. So you have 4 VMs, 2 application gateways or stuff like that. Please find out what is running on them. And they took 2 weeks and they gave me a presentation today. So while doing that, I was explaining to them the customer journey, and I said, okay, hold on. Let me log on to my website and tell you how does a customer gets a new connection of Dish TV. And to my horror, I found 3 bugs in 5 minutes. And that too, when I have a testing team, I have a UAT team, I have a business team who validates everything. So it's a nightmare. So that is number 1. Number 2, at the same time, because of cloud, I am having option to consume services at a drop of a hat, which otherwise I have to first find out the cost, then a business proposition, then a note, a write-up, then 5 levels of approval. And finally, by that time, 6 months have gone and it has lost the meaning. Today, because of cloud, I have certain budget, in which I have to manage my cost. So if I find something new and interesting, I just go and tell my boss, hey, I'm going for that. Just FYI, I'm not even asking him. And I go and provision that for a week. If it makes sense, I will go and tell my marketing guy or a sales guy or somebody and say, we have done this. Should I continue? If it is making sense, else I will stop. So this is a benefit which I'm getting in terms of unlocking new things which can benefit my customer. So for example, if I want to try and dabble with voice, There are many ISVs or partners of the most common GCPs, global cloud providers, who have those ready-made available. So I can I can try fast, fail fast. Many of the times the cloud providers incentivize me by giving me some credits, and I can just use those credits to try something new. So it's a mixed bag, but given a choice, I will continue with cloud and will try to enhance the customer experience further.
Great point, Matt. Great point, Matt. Today, the interesting discussion is becoming interesting with so many confessions and disruptive statements. Um, uh, so, I was tempted to come to Sonia. Probably I'll come, but first, Naveen, the same question to you. What have you seen quickly about the pandemic? Though we know we will not like it in that period, and now that everything is normal. Okay, so expectation, the changing expectation from customers, and because of the volume also, the change in customer experience. So how do you manage that, and what is the role of cloud there? Because you probably are more into cloud. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Shamuja. So, see, we are an organization which is, which you say, born amongst those who are luckily born in cloud. We kind of run anything and everything on cloud. And the biggest benefit, of course, there are a lot of benefits. Everyone understand that this is a topic which has been discussed at length in various forums, but something, where it helps, and a very agile startup like ours is, it enables our business teams to, run so many experiments at the same time. In a true sense, as they say that, culturally, you build fast, you fail fast, and then you learn even faster. Cloud enables us to fail fast. Why? Because when we build fast, we have complete flexibility, agility to deploy things faster, and then of course whatever the meaningful output comes, whether we fail or we succeed, that's separate. But it's this bit of the puzzle that cloud really solves for us, and not only for the business teams, but more dominantly for the tech teams. Today, one team say, I want to do away with my legacy applications, and they are now on their journey to adopt to microservices or to containers, right? So that entire planning of services, deployment, support, everything becomes very easy, and then the standardization comes in place. So you hire a skill set, and things that other companies are doing, you learn from them, and so it takes time, but that skill set availability is also now becoming a little more standardized. Gone are the days when my organization used to work in X way, others are in a different direction, and whenever I hire someone, then I need to do a an entire mix and match of skill set and get someone on board to the way that I work. When you adopt to a global cloud service platform or to any global virtualization engine, there's a set way in which you do things. You can deviate 10-15% here, but that it's not more than that. So that ways the resource churnout has also become easier to manage. These are some of the bigger flexibilities which we are driving, and which really helps me cater to my customers, say our business teams, my tech teams, a whole lot better had I been running my own infrastructure.
Great. Yeah. So, Anitos, let me come to you. I had some other question, but I think I'll club this because we have quite a good full panel. So, this, I think, in various ways, from all the three CIOs who have spoken for, this flexibility thing has come up. Okay. And another thing that we have seen, not just in this one VMware Sify, in different other discussions that we have done, is that while all these are fine, people go to cloud, but it often starts with probably when it started with cost, and once and many of last 4 months, 6 months, I see a lot of even senior CIOs. Senior CIOs means the large companies, the industry are complaining about cost actually going out of control. So flexibility, of course, uh, uh, everyone understands, but that is not something in many of these flexibility aspects, which especially Abhishek talked about, are not understood by the CFO, by the other guy. So but cost is something which everyone understands. That's so, and sometimes it becomes like a trade-off, though they are probably not. So I think I'd get your perspective on this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think welcome everyone for this panel discussion. Most of you I know, I have met you. Thanks for joining us. I'll keep it very simple, and in one of the other forums we were discussing, which was about cost control in cloud. It's no more the discussion of cost optimization and all those stuff, right? So I'll start with the cost control, then I'll discuss about how the flexibility getting discussed as a business case with the CFOs or the CXOs. And lastly, I will touch upon the first point that was made by Vinod on the skills point of view, so that we cover the three angles quickly. So first, to start with the cost control, see, there was, first and foremost, when this cloud journey started, the consumption policy or the pattern, how it will be, it was not known to any one of us, right? It is just, we are going on a model of cloud. We are adapting, looking at the future journey on a agile or a flexible model, right? So the very important part of it, which came out for any service provider like us, is to create that platform where you can go and understand your pattern of usage, which can throw you a dashboard by not only your resource utilization point of view, but also maybe from your line of business or maybe operations point of view, your usage pattern by month on month or a period that you understand, and accordingly create a policy, because any cloud provider would like to see more workload and see more consumption, and the cost will go haywire, correct? And so the very important part is looking at the pattern of my usage, understanding the baselining of my workload. What is the first cloud framework that I will adopt as an organization? Very key. And that is where most of the successful cloud journey has gone through. It is across global. It has got nothing to do with India or global. First and foremost, you need to be very clear that which one I will go for an IaaS, which one I will go for a PaaS, what is the right model for SaaS, or is it ready for it to entirely rehost on a cloud or not? We can retire and reuse the same on a on-prem private cloud point of view or consumption point of view, right? So the model and framework pattern is very important for any business case of cloud, and that basically can only be achieved when you understand the pattern of your usage and what is the workload assessment you have done. So what we do as an organization is that when we get into a cloud discussion with any of our partners, we have changed the discussion points. Like Abhishek is there in the call. He is one of our customers who is already using Azure with Sify managed services and so on and so forth, and most of you are. But we have changed from what we used to do. What we are now doing is that we have created certain IPs around assessment tools, where we are going and plugging in understanding of your workload usage and understanding your as is, and creating a pattern of a pattern which can just a minute, a pattern which is rightly suited for you to take the right adoption on the right framework or the right model. What it means is that with that, in next 2 quarters with the run I have, I will able to understand that exactly shall I go on a pay as you grow model, or reserve instance is the correct way of looking at it, or what is the underneath, I will say, the usage that I'm really having, the transparency of usage, right? And that's basically brings the policy of utilization, consumption, and it relates to the cost control. So that's number one. Number two is the point that came out is on the business case, which I always harp, and I was also discussing on the last forum. Any discussion on cloud, first we need to sit down and create a framework. It's very important. Cloud is a framework, and with that, the governance and regulations and the security piece needs to be discussed. The framework needs to be inherited, and as per that, the models of cloud adoption needs to be created. Until unless we do that, it is no more a refresh versus a cloud adoption. That's not the right cloud business case. So that is the second point of view. Third, on the skill sets point of view, it is across industry. Today, the cloud adoption is no more on the cloud hyperscaler certification. It is beyond that. It is microservices, DevOps, the DevSecOps kind of or any kind of digital use case on a PaaS model. is a skill set requirement in the industry. So what we have done as an organization, and these are skill sets that you can learn on the way. It cannot be come out of a university of any training center, correct? So what we have done is that we have created a batch of we generally call it as an army within our organization, where we have moved certain skills, certain resources or certain talents from one level to other, understanding their it is a process. You have to understand the people's attention or passion, where they want to move, and accordingly we have to guide them. Somebody wants to move, as exactly how Abhishek said, that the infrastructure guys believe that they're in the top of it and they wanted to be there only. So it's a passion. Somebody wants to move on infrastructure point of view. So how we can change him towards infrastructure as a code on cloud.
Right.
Okay. Similarly, Dev and Sex the app modernization point of view, we create. So it is inheritance of the same batch of people, how we can upskill, and that is how the skills in the industry is going up.
Thank you. So let me go straight to Mr. Chaturvedi. He had joined, and a very straightforward question. So we are, you represent a multinational which is present in many countries. And so the kind of discussion that we are having as the challenges and all, how do they differ, first of all, or if yes, like in other developed markets, in EMEA, in APAC? So where does India stand? And based on that, what do you think? Where, is it in some cases the advantageous position, or there are certain challenges where unique to India? So if you can give that global comparison perspective, that will be nice.
Thank you, Shama. As far as my experience is there on this area, like we have been adopting cloud platform for delivering services and experience to consumer as well as customer. Very recently, I was working on one of the e-commerce project, which was meant for Middle East. And again, the first choice goes to cloud because nobody is having time to set the entire infrastructure and placing security, etc., and then having team who is particularly monitoring all these areas. So that was an obvious choice. But I heard in the beginning, I think Abhishek was pointing out this. The skill set is one of the challenge which is very common these days. And the high turnaround which is happening not only in the companies like ours, but also in the IT services company is somewhere impacting those project deliveries, as well as fulfilling the commitment which we are making not only to the business and the business which is making to the customers. So those that is our first challenge. Second is one thing which I also learned about the marrying between infrastructure and application team. So yeah, that's something I was lucky enough to not having these kind of challenges, because generally whenever we collaborate, we bring both of them on the table, and then they share their pain points, and then we are able to understand and address them there and then itself. So that is something which is helpful when we are often collaborating, bringing everybody on the table and see that we are able to work on top of that, beyond application, beyond infrastructure as an organization to deliver it. So that is something which is not a challenge. The topmost challenge is having the skill set, having a team who can manage and deliver that experience, and the sustainability piece, which is also very important. How to sustain the success and how to have the governance, despite of having multiple challenges in delivering those expectations to the business.
Great points. I think, of course, industry to industry, geography to geography. Ashish, for you, I see you have been done, some part of the cloud journey, and a slightly more specific questions to you, both on your experience as well as the knowledge in hindsight. When people talk about cloud, and there is obvious this question, and today especially with more digital, even more expectation from cloud, there is this debate between applications, okay, whether to lift and shift and then think of modernization, or whether to modernize and move to the cloud straight away. So have you faced that? And because you are in a business which is like it is neither the traditional old age, but it is still there is some components which is very similar to manufacturing industries, but again you are a consumer industry, very fast moving. So what is your what has been your experience?
This is so true that an organization, any organization or industry, that it often comes across challenges that if I should entirely shift my existing applications or shift my entire things to cloud, or vis-a-vis I should deploy new applications on the cloud itself. I should create something new rather than doing the entire migration. When I have a conversation across industry, when I see people also, what I have seen that migration is not that difficult, first of all. As people portray it, it is not that difficult. And when you are having some native applications, that means a kind of time and effort has already went into development and deployment of those. And we are speaking about whenever migration happens, it means these applications are old, they are critical for your business, and you want to either revamp it or migrate it. If I compare the cost thing, if I do the costing kind of thing, it becomes very difficult to create new stuff from scratch. So if that is a scenario, if I have to choose between the two, first of all, I will choose to migrate. Second, if I don't want to migrate, I will rather look for SaaS-based solutions which are already on cloud. How can I access and approach them? So that is how my approach will be to look towards things. So not to complicate it a lot, because application development takes really lot of time and effort from people, and at times you also don't have the right kind of subject matter expertise in organization. And what I have seen a fantastic thing amongst our teams is that people who were not conversant with cloud, they used to work in traditional kind of data centers, they used to work in traditional kind of thing, they are very they have been easily able to adopt cloud as well. So developers, the entire community, it has absorbed it very easily. They are functioning very well, and this is something which I'm telling from my experience as well, and after of course discussion with people, uh, and this has also helped people to stay on the job. Otherwise, the model, the way world is shaping up, everything will sooner or later will be moving to cloud. That is a mandate. Other than the organization which are very much around security, that we don't want to do something at all, or the information is very IP protective kind of thing, people are going to adopt it. So those are the good changes which I am seeing, that people's skill development has also happened. And as I said, that my approach will be migrate or get SaaS solution. Don't reinvent it.
Thank you, thank you. So Abhishek Prasann now, I come to you to ask a very specific question about multi-cloud. Okay. So multi-cloud is a reality, and the kind of business that you are in, your IT is fairly mature, right? So, however, and a lot of these mergers, acquisitions also happen. So multi-cloud is kind of not an option. You go hybrid multi-cloud. So how do you see the challenge of managing it? Talking about it, is good, but how do you see, managing it when sometimes it is not planned, but it comes your way because of some compulsion, because of some merger or acquisition. Uh, so maybe if you can focus on that.
Yes, sure. So see, when we think about cloud, especially when we think about migration or moving towards the cloud, we mostly focus towards cost. We emphasize so much about cost. So we are not see the other benefit of cloud. Like for example, we just directly calculate what is the cost saving we are going to do once we move to the cloud, and what percentage of like again we will get. But the other benefit like staff productivity, operational resilience, and business agility, these are the byproduct of moving towards cloud. And when you calculate the cost of all these benefits, you will feel there are so many, a lot more benefit than cost. When we talk about multi-cloud, then we need to understand, see, there are so many features which is already in available cloud, how we can take the advantage of those things, and whatever things we have already in like in premises things, how we can leverage of those advantages. When we see about compliance and other scenarios, we will see like when we go to the cloud, those compliance are already catered by the cloud provider. So we need to also think about other aspect like right size of instance, improve elasticity, like other choose of correct pricing model, storage, how can we optimize the storage, how can what kind of good things we can take from cloud providers, and what kind of good things we can take from our on-premises data set. When we talk about multi-cloud, there are so many good things available on Azure, and a few good things available in low price and available on AWS. How can we take the advantage of all these different cloud providers? So there are many aspects we need to take care when we talk about multi-cloud, and this thing we need to see in total holistic approach. We need to take care, like how we can take the advantage of entire ecosystem.
So that is not checked. Maybe the same question I asked to Vipin. He is in. You are also in. Are you there? Yeah. You are in a similar kind of business, and this also kind of a major reality of life for you. So, what is your perspective? Do you agree with Abhishek, or you have something to add?
So, thanks, Mr. Das, for that question. What I feel is there is a very pertinent need today, and that need is how the technology leaders can somehow justify the as to how cloud helps meet the vision of the company. So from a vision perspective, if I look at it from a vision perspective, there are vision documents that talk about enabling business, that talk about customer service, that talk about resilience, that talk about flexibility. But when it comes to translating that into IT solutions and probably cybersecurity solutions, I come from cybersecurity, so probably my inclination would be more towards that side. But when it comes to that, it is it takes that skill set to explain or to justify to the business as to how going on cloud helps in furthering the cause of the company, furthering the vision of the company, and moving the company closer to what we have collectively thought of achieving. I think that is one. The other aspect, Vinod sir mentioned right in the start that probably the CEOs and the leadership is coming and asking that okay, the pandemic is over, what have you done last? So I remember from my early education days when I was studying for advertising, they used to say you are as good as your last campaign. So it's extremely important for us at the somebody I'm forgetting the name mentioned about the rate of change which is there and how to manage the rate of change. So it is extremely important that not only resilience and availability and flexibility, the rate of change which we can manage through cloud, and the rate at which we can progress towards the vision of the company is something that only a very flexible and a very available environment will give you. So that is my take on it, Mr. Das.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so he got to a broader point. Maybe Sonia, I come to you now on this. One of the things that we hear is that going to cloud is an easier decision. I don't think anyone. And going to multi-cloud often is not a decision, it comes. Okay. But when you do that, sometimes the cost goes up, manageability becomes a huge issue. There is no end-to-end visibility, so there is risk, the complexity. But you start the cloud journey for actually simplifying your IT, managing the cost, managing de-risking the thing. So all these things are negated. Uh, but there is no way back to, you cannot say I will not have multi-cloud. That's not a choice. So how do you manage that?
Thanks for this question. I normally tell, I lead the multi-cloud business for VMware, and I think I say multi-cloud is the most abused word in the industry today, right? And it's most useful and most abused also. What happened was a couple of years ago when cloud was just a mono cloud, things were much simpler. People had gotten cloud to reduce all the three factors: risk, complexity, and cost. The moment these mono cloud moved to multi-cloud, it actually, as Mr. Das said, is negating it. And the another point, what is happening is it is very difficult for the CIO to balance between the on-prem and the cloud. As I think Abhishek and Vipin and people mentioned, that the need for the native services, the need for the services from the hyperscalers is there. That's one point, correct? They have, you have that environment which you cannot replicate on-prem, and you need to use those services. You want to be agile, your business needs to scale, and that has to be there. But on the other hand, the kind of investment what you have done on-prem, right? Your cost, I heard Mr. Basan mention about the skill set, the manageability. So that is also one factor which pulls people towards on-prem. So what VMware has done is we are trying to bridge these two. So we want to bring in the same benefits of on-prem, which is your investment, your cost, your manageability, your people, everything remaining same, right? So we are trying to move you with that same environment, with that same ecosystem to the public cloud environment with minimal change, allowing you to use all the native services. So how do we do this? So VMware has tied up with all the leading 4 to 5 hyperscalers today, and we have a same VMware virtualization existing in AWS, in Microsoft, in Google, with IBM. It's coming with Alibaba, you name it, and with Oracle, we have it with them. So what benefit does it bring? So the cost point, the skill set point, the governance, the manageability, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You've already spent, sorry to use this word, donkey years doing it on-prem. So you just extend the same, the system, and what happens? Bang on, you get a far better infrastructure, right? You get a far better plethora of services available from each of the hyperscalers today. They're all running neck to neck. Google can be better in something with AWS. AWS immediately becomes better in something else from Google. Then Microsoft becomes better than both of them in something else. So it's something which is all three of them, 4 of them are constantly innovating and coming up with new services which are beneficial for the CIO today. So in this, and with this, what happens is we try to kill these silos. Today, what is happening with multi-cloud, you end up making silos. The investment, what you did on-prem, all your layers, you replicate for one hyperscaler. Tomorrow you have a need for another one, you replicate for all, and you have multiple silos running. So what VMware has done, if you remember what happened a decade ago when the virtualization layer came in, we made the underlying box, independent. The CIOs were given the freedom from, choosing or getting tied up to one of the particular provider for the box. Correct? You became box independent. The same way we are trying to make the industry today independent of the underlying multi-cloud, hyperscaler, what you choose. You can move around. You can come back to on-prem. You can go back to one hyperscaler. You can go from one hyperscaler to hyperscaler 2, getting the best of both worlds. So this is what VMware is doing, because as I understand what Vipin said, vision, cloud is a reality today. We cannot be stuck to the on-prem, because if you don't do it, your competition is doing it. People are utilizing those services available, and it's a tough market there. So cloud is a reality. Multi-cloud is a reality. VMware is just trying to bring in ease, flexibility, freedom, not tying you down to a hyperscaler, giving you a flexibility to choose which one for which app. You could even have all the three. Coming to one more point, Mr. Das, what you had mentioned was, I think Ashish mentioned that let's not rewrite the code. Correct? Absolutely, it's right. So what VMware does, you have monoliths. apart from Naveen, who comes from a born in the cloud, he could have all apps which are ready to go to the cloud. I'm sure majority of the CIOs today have some so-called legacy, so-called monoliths, which you cannot even, if you want to change an IP to move to a public cloud, believe me, I've had conversations with CIO. Changing IP could be sounding as simple as Eric, just an IP change, but believe me, it takes months to do it in that jungle of monolith apps. So what we do is, even taking the same IP, you just lift and shift that app as it is from your on-prem environment to whichever hyperscaler you want to go to, because your other apps are already there. So you bring them all to one environment, and you can use all the services of those hyperscalers, the containerization services or the app modernization services, and try to see what you can do with your monolith, or let it die its death there. It can be there till you, as Ashish said, SaaSify it, get someone else who can SaaSify it, right? So you don't have the urgency to sit today and modernize those apps. You can move as is and use all the benefits of the hyperscaler. So that's what VMware multi-cloud strategy is.
Thank you. Let me go to Upninder, and Maitra, I'm coming to you last for a reason. I'll come to you with a fundamentally different questions than what we have been discussing. So in your industry, is for many people who kind of non-tech people who swear by cloud, what it means is infra migration, okay, which is very easy. A small child can understand what it means and how it helps. But when it comes to the other things, you have to modernize your application to get the best out of cloud, and often it is not as simple as ABC like that. And in many businesses, CIOs really struggle to get that. Otherwise, you are running data center and having overheads and move it to cloud, and you suddenly your capex opex, very easy to explain. So have you faced this kind of challenge in the industry, because you have largely operated in the manufacturing kind of industry? So have you faced this? And I think this thing have changed, or I don't know. I'd like to get your perspective. So you please unmute yourself. Yeah.
So definitely. So, what this pandemic has done is that, it has make people, we are into the B2B space, and it has made the B2B customers very comfortable with technology. And, they are demanding same kind of an experience that they get from Amazon in the B2B space. So the B2B space is no longer a poor cousin of the B2C, right? So that's, if I look at from my customers' eyes, my B2B customers, that's the kind of expectation that they have from us. And we, as leaders in a traditional organization, can't take a very narrow approach of a cloud. That it's only going to be a migration. It's going to be another way of delivering, infrastructure. So when we now look at the cloud, it has to be beyond that. Maybe the discussion which was happening 5 years earlier was, whether we need to move to the cloud or not. Which should be the right cloud model. What should be the should it be a multi-cloud kind of a model? Those discussions are are of past. Today, you need to embed your cloud decisions, with your business strategy. So your cloud has to fuel innovation. Your cloud has to fuel the transformation. So and your cloud has to fuel the analytics. So those are the discussions that we would like to have with our cloud partners. Those decisions of infra sector, are already done. A couple of years back. So, this is, what our expectation is. And the other thing, if you really see, even in the B2B space, and, let me take an example from my previous organization, which was into B2C space. We built a simple use case, where we had, where the customers, just by scanning a product, will be able to register the product. So in case you bought a fan, you just click the serial number and we'll be able to register that fan for you. Now, for this simple use case, you had to plug, WhatsApp, where they'll be doing the scanning. You have to go to the Amazon to get an algorithm which could read through that registration card. You had to go to your CRM system, which was provided by Microsoft, where you could get an customer friendly name for the products, and ultimately the registration was being done in SAP. So so it was a mix of multi cloud kind of environment and an on-prem kind of environment. So another thing that B2B leaders now need to think of is more of a customer journey approach. I think which one of the panelists mentioned earlier in the discussion. It can be it can no longer be a point automation. So now when you're taking a customer journey approach, you will come across providers where the cloud is being provided by multiple service providers. There might be SaaS component into it, and there'll be an on-prem into it. So the way that you are able to stitch the complete customer experience together becomes extremely crucial in this B2B space. So if you really ask me, the discussions in the B2B space has totally moved to the other dimensions now.
Okay, that is good to know. So Maitre, you will get to know why I kept you for the last. So all we have been discussing the details of cloud, the challenges and all. But our topic, if we remember, is reimagining cloud. Okay. While I'll not, Vinod has banned me from saying the word pandemic. Okay. So I'll not go to that, but there are other changes also happening. And I come to one of those for you. Each 5G becoming available, Edge is coming. So a lot of, in your industries, a lot of computing might shift to Edge, or will maybe new computing will happen at the edge. There are very, very nice use cases. In the context of that, how does your approach to cloud change, and how does it coexist, edge, cloud, public cloud, private cloud, your own big data center? How does that equation change? After that, there are a lot of things that we have discussed. We'll come to some response, but before that, I'll probably, after you, I'll go to Vinod for a quick take, then I'll go to Yogi. Yeah.
Sure. Good afternoon, all. Thanks for having me here. So, rightly said, Shamanoj, with 5G coming in, and manufacturing industry is seeing a lot of, I would say, very, very drastic changes. With digitalization coming all the way, everyone today wants to have everything at their, on the piece of glass that they are carrying, the mobile phone or the tablet. Everyone wants everything at the tip of their fingers, which means that not just the executives, but also the end users. So we manufacture tractors, combines, harvesters, construction equipments. Their owners want to have the information available at their fingertips to be able to see what's going on with their equipment, how is it going, and all that. With that said, on the end user front, there is a lot of need to have the information available on the fly, which calls for having cloud at the back end available, and the connectivity be there. On the other side, on the manufacturing plant floor, where the information that is being captured at the respective manufacturing sites is very, very important. So we cannot rely, or we cannot just rely on cloud, I would say. So we are mandated to have on-premise data centers, on-premise servers, and edge computing in place to capture the information, store it, process it, and then synchronize it with the other cloud-based applications that we have. So I'm sure every one of us would be talking about the pros and cons, but I would say that there is no one thumb rule or one yardstick that would suit all. All in all, what I would say is that there is always going to be a mix of on-prem and multiple clouds and hybrid clouds. And just to mention to Sonia that when she was mentioning it is going to be very easy to move from one cloud to the other, to the on-prem. So it's not as easy as it is said. And when it comes to real on ground,
He didn't say it is easy. He said she can make it easy.
Yeah, sure, of course. We'll see
POC.
that.
I will prove it with the POC.
Yeah.
Here comes the sales
Sure.
hat inside me. I'll shoot
Yeah.
it in the face.
Sure, we'll see that. But in reality, it's not as simple and as easy as it is said. There are lots of internal, coordination and players that are there, and especially with multinational companies like us, it's not just for one country. There are multiple people, multiple technical people spread across different geographies with whom there is an interaction, there is a coordination, and there is a lot of hard work and sleepless nights and breakless weekends that goes in to keep the things to keep the lights on. So that's my input.
Thank you. So, Vinod, so now both as a CIO and as in an industry where you are quite close to or very privy to the information on what is happening around in 5G and Edge and how the providers are preparing for that. So, what is your take on the same thing which I asked, Maite?
Sure. So I think, one very interesting, you're absolutely right. I think 5G is something I'm personally looking forward to, and we as a business welcome, because it will trigger a little bit more infusion of capex into the industry and provide much needed coverage. But I think the underlying point to be remembered is that, the broad purpose that I see, or the bulk of the interest I see in 5G today, is from an access point, is from getting high bandwidth wireless based access, where you don't have broadband penetration on a wired basis, which we all know will take time and all of that. So, to a great extent, the connectivity silver bullet is there with 5G. And obviously, as we expand that footprint, our challenges in terms of where am I going to access my data is becoming less of a problem. Having said that, the use cases, of, let's say, remote medicine, or, I'll do operations, or I'll have driverless cars, I think there's some distance away from most of these in any practicable industry that I'm sitting here and seeing. I think that's not unusual. In and of itself, these technologies come, people take time to put stuff around them, and somebody would tell me, yeah, Boeing's doing this. And I'm like, very clear, I'm not resourced like Boeing. So we'll get around to it. It's pretty much the reaction I have when partners come back with things like this. But certainly from an access point of view and a democratization of access, I think it contributes to the earlier themes I was talking about of flexibility. And it contributes to eliminating connectivity as a challenge in some of these scenarios, makes life a little easier for some of us. Edge,
so, Yogi, sorry.
Edge again is about getting the data closer to where I'm using it, doing things there. And again, these are all two sides of the same coin. But I am much more bothered about what are we going to do with these things beyond the obvious. At the moment, I'm conservative to say that we'll figure it out over a period of time, but I'm not seeing people running, to take their places in the queue. And, probably a good thing as well till we understand what these technologies mean.
Absolutely. So, Yogi, so I heard a lot of things. These challenges and multi-cloud flexibility, which has come again and again, said, and many endorsed. The skill set issue has come. We now discuss the Edge, 5G, how that much impact. So, your response to all this?
Yeah, so thank you. Coming at last gives me a benefit to hear everyone first, right? So we heard, let's say, started with, flexibility at what cost, right? Abhishek talked about consumer experience, right? And then Ipininder talked about how the business model itself is changing, business itself is changing, right? So a few years ago, you used to hear different things from CIOs and CTOs and the tech leaders that availability is an issue. The major issues used to be business continuity and stuff like that. But now, for example, when I met Chandra Khanduja last, he was talking about that we will be building smart UPS and smart inverters, right? So let's say today has got 2,000 desktops on which OS patch has to be updated. He has to worry about only that, right? Tomorrow he's got millions of UPS and inverters which have got some kind of software installed, right? He has to worry about that, right? So these new technologies, which we know that ended up with 5G, connected vehicles. We talked about CNH, for example, maybe working on that. The manufacturing industry, the shop floor technologies have started using AR, VR, and some on-premises infrastructure is still there, right? For high performance computing. So a lot of the kind of problems which we had when cloud started, the only problem cloud was solving at that time was that how do I move from capex to opex kind of model, and how do I experiment fast, right? How do I how without having to buy the hardware. Now when you have so many choices, you have to build so many applications, there are so many technologies which have come in, right? You have to integrate your business teams want to integrate everything with everything. A tractor manufacturer is saying that I want to integrate my tractor with IoT and then connect it to cloud, right? So similar business use cases are coming in everywhere. So you want to connect everything with everything. So you have so many choices, as Sonia said, that AWS is trying to get ahead of Google is trying to get ahead of Microsoft. They're all, they have different kind of platforms. So cloud has moved from infrastructure as a service to platform as a service in a big way. People are doing development on cloud. That is where you're seeing the skill set issues, right?
I lost Yogi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yogi, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. Sorry if I, so what I'm saying is, the skill set issue is coming because, you started doing development on cloud, right? When you do development on cloud, you need skill sets of microservices, DevOps, and you start thinking about user experience. So you do development accordingly. So integrations have become complex, right? So it is no more and they're all coming from different vendors, right? Different softwares, the contracts are different. There is one development company which is doing one particular software development for you. You're doing something with Microsoft, CRM is running on Microsoft, like as Ipinder said, ERP is running from SAP, Oracle, these financial services running on Oracle Financial Services. So multi-cloud has to be there. You need to have on-prem infrastructure also in some cases, and you will have skill set issues also, right? So this is like, these kind of problems were faced by American industry some 20 years ago. So this is what they started doing, the American CIOs. That is when they started outsourcing a lot, right? When they started outsourcing a lot, outsourcing commoditized services a lot, right? So this is a decision which now today's tech leaders have to take, that how much do I do it myself, So they have to understand the business and do development according to that business. That is the one thing they want to keep it with themselves. Rest, all the commoditized services they want to outsource, and they have to outsource on multi-cloud, right? So whether it is AWS, Azure, so do you have those platforms available through which you can manage your on-premises also, the AWS, Azure, Google kind of workloads? How do you resolve skill set issues? So upskilling, you said, automation could be one thing, right? How much I can automate, right? Before I outsource or after I outsource, how much do I automate? So all of these problems, have to be worked in a manner that how much do I outsource and insource, and how much I automate, and what are the SLAs I'm expecting? What I'm expecting from my partners. You need a common ITSM layer, right? When the systems are becoming complex, you need a common orchestration layer, automation layer. So how do I still maintain some consistency, some uniformity, in spite of having having used all of these cloud providers and so many different systems, right? So one application is being built on one programming language. There used to be some 6-7 programming languages 10 years back, right? So today there are more than 50 programming languages we are building, right? There are more than 20 databases which I've seen customers are using. So how do you resolve this complexity? Through single dashboards, through single console management. So this is where Sify is focusing on. How do we resolve this problem? How much we can take pain from our customers away, and how much, so that they could, with limited resources, they could focus upon the evangelization with their business teams, that what new platforms have to adopt now, right? So I hope Shamanuj,
I think yes, you have touched all the issues. So any comment that anyone would like to have, any last comment before we close? We are already 5 minutes, 6 minutes of time. So any quick comments? I'm just making it open. So Ashish,
just one comment. So migration is not that difficult. That's the only thing which I wanted to say. That's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Abhishek, you want to make something, or otherwise we'll close it?
No, Shamanuj, I'm good. Thank you. Interesting.
Okay, great. Sonia, whatever in half a minute, whoever. So we'll close then.
So I'll start with the topic of the cloud, reimagine cloud, right? So let us reimagine cloud. What all different clouds can do for you, right? And how can partners like Sify and VMware help, no matter what cloud platform you choose and how much you want to choose it, how much consumption you want to do on that cloud platform.
Okay, that brings me to are already out of time, but is consumption transparency is a thing which have come again, and anyone want to take that half a minute time? Maybe Anitosh, you just.
Sorry, I just got a call. What do you mean by that? Consumption transparency.
Yes.
See, I keep on reiterating the same word. It might be repetitive, but yeah, Ashish mentioned about the migration part which I missed out. Very important part. I think
not difficult.
Yeah, I think that is the point I really missed out. Without you can think about going to cloud in whatever model. If your migration approach and your migration framework is not correct, it will not happen. Coming back to the consumption point of view and the consumption control point of view, it is all about sniffing and giving the transparency of the utilization that you are doing. And for that, multi-cloud platform becomes very, very important, which Yogi was trying to harp. It is not about how many clouds you are utilizing, how you are managing. It's all about the transparency, what you're using, when you're using, and how you're consuming. If that transparency is pretty much there, it is easier to run the ops.
Great. Thank you. I think our panelists have started dropping because already we're like 10 minutes. And so thanks a lot for taking time off to come and make some really interesting discussion. Very nice points by everyone, and a whole gamut of points from management to what will happen next, to business use case, to skill set, to the day-to-day challenge, everything. I think it was a very good discussion. Thanks all the panelists. Thanks our partners, representative from Sify and VMware. Thank you all.